One suitcase, $300, and a dream bigger than the city itself. That's all Armand had when he stepped off the plane in New York. He had imagined this moment for years, the land of opportunity, the place where hard work turns into success. But only 3 days later, standing alone in a tiny apartment room in Queens, Armand realized something no one had warned him about. New York doesn't reward dreamers. It tests survivors. And in this city, you either learn to fight or you disappear. When Armand walked out of the airport, the city felt unreal. Cars rushing everywhere, buildings taller than anything he had ever seen. People walking faster than he thought was possible. Everything moved quickly, too quickly. His cousin picked him up from the airport and drove through Queens, street after street filled with shops, restaurants, and crowded apartments. Finally, they stopped at a small building. That was Armand's new home. Inside the apartment were 3 other roommates. One small room, one shared bathroom, and barely enough space to breathe. But Armand didn't care, because to him, this was the first step toward the American dream. The excitement lasted exactly 48 hours. On his second day, Armand went grocery shopping. He picked up milk, bread, eggs, chicken. When he reached the counter, the total was $42. He froze. Back home, that amount of money could buy food for almost a week. Here, it was barely enough for 2 meals. But the real shock came later. Rent. $900 every month for a shared apartment. That was the moment Armand realized something important. Living in New York wasn't just expensive. It was a constant fight to survive. Finding work was harder than he expected. Everywhere he went, people asked the same question. Do you have experience? Armand had experience, but not American experience. Days turned into weeks. Money started disappearing. Then finally, one small restaurant in Manhattan gave him a chance. Dishwasher. It wasn't glamorous, but it was work. Every night he stood in a hot kitchen, washing endless stacks of plates. The restaurant was always full, customers laughing, talking, eating expensive meals. And Armand quietly promised himself something. One day, his life would be different. Life in New York quickly became a routine. Wake up, take the subway, work, come home exhausted, sleep, repeat. Sometimes Armand worked 14 hours a day. During the afternoon, he delivered food on a bicycle. At night, he washed dishes at the restaurant. Winter was the hardest. Cold winds, snow, long nights. But slowly, he started saving money. Not much, just enough to survive another month. There is something many immigrants never talk about: loneliness. One night after work, Armand walked through Times Square. Bright lights everywhere. Thousands of people around him. Tourists taking photos, street performers entertaining crowds. But somehow, he had never felt more alone. That night, he called his family. His mother asked a simple question. "Are you happy?" Armand paused. Then he smiled and said yes, even though the truth was much more complicated. After 8 months in New York, Armand almost gave up. One night, his bicycle broke during a delivery. He lost the order. The customer complained. The company cut his pay. Standing in the cold winter street, Armand felt defeated. For the first time since arriving in America, he wondered if he had made a mistake. Maybe this city wasn't meant for him. Maybe the dream was too big. But sometimes the hardest moment in life comes right before everything changes. Everything changes. At the restaurant where Armand worked, there was a regular customer, a quiet businessman who often sat alone. One evening, he noticed how hard Armand was working. He started a conversation. They talked about Armand's life, his dreams, his struggles. Weeks later, that same man offered him something unexpected, a small opportunity, a job helping with basic tasks at his startup company. The pay wasn't huge, but it was a new beginning. 3 years passed. Armand stood on a rooftop in Manhattan, looking at the skyline that once felt impossible. The city hadn't become easier, but Armand had become stronger. He had learned how to survive, how to adapt, how to fight. And that was the real secret of New York. This city doesn't hand out success. It forces you to earn it. Millions of people arrive in New York every year, chasing the same dream. Some succeed, some fail. But everyone who tries learns the same truth. Dreams are free, but building them costs everything. And in a city like New York, only the ones who refuse to quit ever get to see their dreams come true.